Hello, welcome back to the NHL Best Bets. Yesterday there were a lot of games again, Saturday Night Fever in NHL arenas, and we picked two early games. Here are the results of those. Not so great this time, even though both games were pretty tight. Washington won New Jersey. The result there was 5-2 at the end, and then Columbus visited Nashville where they led 1-0, but Nashville took care of the business by winning 2-1. Very even game, but coin flip was this time towards Nashville. Tommy, how do you see these games? Were these miserable bets, or would you do these again?
Yeah, well, it looks bad. The 5-2 result in New Jersey, not the best, but it was quite the opposite of what we were expecting. That it was Washington Capitals, the visitors, who came in this game really with a lot of energy, and New Jersey couldn't answer that, even if they did play better in their last game, while it was Capitals who didn't play that well in the end of the last. So Capitals did what we expected the Devils to do, so they went really early 3-0 ahead. Then it was New Jersey chasing, and they got within one goal and had a good chance to tie the game as well. But it was Capitals then who took the spoils and the last goal in the empty net. So not as big difference as 2-5 would indicate. But Capitals were a better team. With these odds, I think it was pretty close to being a good bet still. That New Jersey, a little bit better start, a little bit better goaltending, they could have actually made it a lot closer game, but this time it was not meant to be. And then the Nashville Columbus game was exactly as we expected, very close one, could have gone either way, good goaltending. So not much to say there except what we said already last night, that it will be a tough matchup, and these two are facing again tonight. So interesting to see how it goes. Of course, Columbus expected to do a little bit better, but good win for Nashville. They really needed this sort of a grinding victory at this point of the season.
How about other games? There were a few we discussed yesterday that there is now, let's say, a lot of games with good value. Winnipeg won another game against Montreal. There were some value for home team, but did you find any other good bets? Florida lost in shootout against Carolina. That was, I think, one game that we discussed also. So more or less like 50-50 night for the machine as well.
Yeah, it was inside value exactly 50-50. We had 7 correct and 7 incorrect picks. We did have, for example, Pittsburgh in these coin flip games. We had Pittsburgh winning in New York against the Islanders. They did after overtime. And similarly, these big favorites, we had St. Louis. They beat who were the San Jose in a goal glut game 6-7. So a weird game for St. Louis Blues, known for their defense, but at least they did get the win. And also, of course, Vegas then won Anaheim in this matchup that we said is going to be a very close game and low scoring game, which it was 3-2 after overtime. Colorado then beat Arizona comfortably. That's where we had value as well for the big favorite. So these games were the correct ones, and then a couple of near misses. Edmonton faced Toronto in Edmonton. They were very disappointing again. No points for any of the top players because they scored 0 goals against Toronto, who had Jack Campbell back in the net. So it was a good thing for them that they had a proper goaltender, so to speak, not to play down. Hutchinson is a good NHL goaltender, but of course a safer way to play with Jack Campbell or Anderson there. A good game from Toronto, pretty disappointing from Edmonton, and like we've discussed previously, this goaltending situation for the Oilers, they played now Mike Smith the 3rd time in a row. Maybe you can play Mikko Koskinen 50-50 style, because these guys, big boys, older guys also, so maybe it's better to divide the load than putting it all on one guy.
Yeah, Edmonton, while it looks like they they find their stride suddenly were shut out by Toronto. That is not any kind of great defensive team at the end, even though Jack Campbell played very well. And then interesting matchup, Minnesota, LA. Again, they played against each other. LA was this time awake from the beginning, but still in overtime coin flip, Minnesota won the game.
Yeah, Minnesota's been pretty impressive in the way that they've been playing. They don't have a lot of star players like we discussed earlier. There is of course the old stars, Zach Paris and Ryan Sutter there. A young guy, Kirill Kaprizov, a Russian rookie, actually 23 or 24 years old already, but still a rookie, has taken the team in his backpack and scoring goals where they need. But they've been playing very well compared to what we've been expecting and what many people expected them to do. They have their own system and it's working really well at the moment. Let's see when somebody will find out the way to stop the Wild, but they are rolling right now.
Yeah, that's interesting to see, especially in West Division, that will Minnesota be the solid number 4 or even push for these top 3 teams that are there predicted to lead the way.
Yeah, we have to see a couple of games against these better teams, how they match up with them. So it'll be interesting sort of head-to-head with these 3 big ones.
Yeah. Tonight the game starts pretty early, basically within a half an hour. First game, Boston plays in Madison Square Garden against the New York Rangers. That's maybe too tough matchup to bet this time, as Rangers won last time and there is some value for them this time, but the question is how long Boston can so miserable team that they have been in last 2 games.
Yeah, it's a really tough match to predict because we are expecting Boston to bounce back, but the machine is not. So we'll skip that from our picks because of that. But Boston has looked a little bit fatigued, a little bit out of their normal rhythm. They are a really aggressive team usually. Now they were lacking it a little bit in the last 2 games. They lost heavily in New York to Islanders and now Rangers. So let's see how they approach this back-to-back game, because if they are still tired, they will be run over by the young Rangers team.
Yeah, and if we then go to our picks for tonight, we trust in Columbus, and they've now lost 4 games in a row. Last night played reasonably well, even though they lost the game. But we think their caliber team should win, not only every 5th game, but beat more often. And then Predators have been a bit up and down. Last night, like we discussed, played well. This would be another tight game, and depending, of course, a bit goalies, how they played last night. Performance for both goalies were pretty okay. Is it Pekkarin or Juuse Saros this time in Nashville? We don't know yet, but most probably Joonas Korpisalo is the starter for Columbus. And another game, Detroit-Chicago, 2 teams that were predicted to be to last in Central Division. Chicago has overperformed those predictions pretty handily, and they have solidified their defense from the goaltender Kevin Lankinen onwards, and prediction for under is good value there with minus 106 odds.
Yeah, I like these picks a lot. Like we said already last night, Nashville, Columbus, really tight couple. Really even matchup in all regards, the goaltending, the defense, everything. Of course, Columbus maybe a little bit less talented in the puck control side of things, but then they make it up for grinding and effort. And of course, John Tortorella always says that 2 losses in a row is too much. So I think now they've lost a couple. So it is time for them to win. And good odds again, the positive number for Columbus, 2nd game in a row, and they should do well against Nashville like they did last night. But maybe this time it is Columbus' turn to take the 2 points. And then the under last night, these two met, and there was a lot of shots. There was a lot of scoring chances. Detroit won that game. The goaltenders were Malcolm Subban for Chicago and Jonathan Bernier for Detroit. Tonight, probably going to be Greiss for Detroit and Lankinen for Chicago. And we've seen that when Kevin Lankinen steps in, Chicago plays a lot more solid defense. I think they will not allow Detroit to have these sort of chances they did last night. And also, like I keep repeating, probably after leaking 5 goals, the coaches made the players watch a lot of video to see how Detroit scored those goals. And now they will be able to counter that because it's not a heavy scoring team, not heavily talented team. And Chicago will win this game if they manage to keep Detroit in, let's say, 2 goals, which I think Chicago will score as well. And it'll be 3-2 after the overtime for Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, Chicago is the predicted winner by our machine quite clearly here with the good value, but the odds are not so good. So that is one of the key reasons why we predict under here, or we bet under here instead of Chicago, because under odds are better, and game simulation provide this value for both bets bit same way.
Yeah, the simulations do indicate 55% for the under, so it's a good bet with this value.
Yeah. Then we have a few other games that are repetitions back to back from last night. Washington continues in New Jersey, and would it be again some value for New Jersey in our machine, or is something changed from last night? And same way, Pittsburgh plays in Long Island against New York Islanders. They won last night, and how the machine reacts that one.
Yeah, it's interesting. In New Jersey, we do have now Washington, the favorites to win it by a couple of percent. So we have 60% for the visitors this time. I think it is due to the goaltender performance and also the heavy scoring from Washington last night. So we are expecting now Washington to score on average 3.3 goals, while New Jersey is scoring 2.7. So there is the difference for the road team. Interesting that it flipped overnight, but back-to-back probably better for Washington anyway. And then going to the other New York game, New York Islanders against Penguins. We did have Penguins quite heavily favored last night. Now it is a lot closer, but Penguins are still favored by about 51% against 49 for the Islanders. So very close game expected. What we are thinking is that when Barry Trotz gets to play their second game against the same opponent back-to-back, Barry Trotz is the coach that will take advantage, and Islanders are probably gonna make it a fight like they did last night. So Penguins were maybe a bit lucky yesterday due to the goaltending by Varlamov's couple of mistakes that led to Penguins goals. So let's see. I do think that Islanders will put up a fight, and it'll be probably another overtime kind of game.
Yeah, at least based on the statistics from last season's Islanders are bound to win this game. They have a good matchup against Pittsburgh. They won 62.5% of the games between these two teams in New York Islanders home arena, wherever it has been during the last 3 seasons. And they also have very, very good, maybe the best in NHL record for the back-to-back home game win percentage, because on average they won 54% at home, but the back-to-back home game win percentage is 78.6%. So maybe, like you said, Trotz learns the way how to play against some teams overnight, and then they are either bouncing back from the loss or then continuing the good stride from the previous game.
Yeah, that's the New York Islanders system, and it's a bad place to go to play.